Hi gaming guys, and welcome to episode 31 of D.A.R.C, or Does Anyone Really Care? The mini review series where we're evaluating certain underappreciated cars that are included on Gran Turismo 6. So in this episode, as you can see, we're doing a mini review of the Mercedes CL600 AMG. The CL series is essentially a two-door version of the S-Class, so mainly centered around luxury. As a result, it's quite a large and very heavy car. Typically, cars such as that don't make great track cars. So how does this car fare, and what does it have to offer? Well, it's an expensive car, as you'd expect. I mean, all of the Mercs on Gran Turismo 6 are pretty expensive. It's priced at just under 180,000 credits, so it is a pretty expensive car. You can get 3 Tomicara ZZ2s for that. So it is an expensive car. Fully tuned, it sits at 560 pp, which is, I would say, pretty good for this car. It's not too high, because at the end of the day, it is a big, heavy car, and you don't want the pp to be too high, otherwise it just won't be competitive. Now, fully tuned, I was actually surprised when I first tuned this car quite a while ago on Gran Turismo that it actually didn't produce anywhere near as much power as I was expecting it to, because it has a reasonably large engine, but fully tuned it puts out only 661 brake horsepower. I was expecting far more than that from a big luxury Mercedes AMG model. I was expecting, to be honest, more like the 800 region at least. And with the full weight loss package, it weighs in at 1,451 kilos. So it's still a pretty heavy car. It's well on the way to 1.5 tons. So it's still a pretty hefty car. Now, it does have a good amount of power. Not as much as we were hoping, or not as much as I was hoping, but still a decent amount. Truly supercar levels of power. But it's still heavy. So is it any good to drive? Well, actually, it is. It's, I would say, one of the best handling heavy cars in the game. Now, there aren't that many cars of its kind on Gran Turismo 6, these very large luxury coupes. It's kind of got its own niche in the market. And for the most part, the CL600 does seem chronically underappreciated and, at the very least, underused by most people. I can understand why, because it's not the best looking car in the world. It's kind of bug-eyed, as were some of the Mercedes designs of this era. But personally, I like the look of the car. I think it's quite a classy looking car. It's one of the best performance bargains in real life, ironically, considering how expensive it is on the game. But overall, I'd say it's actually a very good car, and although the power isn't as high as I was perhaps hoping for, it does actually give the result that it is much easier to drive than if it did have over 800 horsepower. Because obviously, fully tuned, a big rear-wheel drive Mercedes with huge amounts of torque is not exactly a beginner-friendly car. Mercs don't have the best handling at the best of times. They're known for wheel spin and for having tons of torque. So the fact that this one does have slightly less power than you would expect is actually a benefit. Now, the performance is still pretty good. The top speed's getting on for 250 miles per hour, the acceleration's pretty good, and the handling, all things considered, is very good for a large and still reasonably heavy car. So if you haven't tried this car before, I would actually recommend that you try it, because although it is expensive, it makes a very nice niche car to have in your collection. I would say I enjoy using it the most for cruises, but I also think that this is the kind of car that could come in handy for very specific types of competition racing, say for heavy vehicles, because it is one of the quickest heavy vehicles on Gran Turismo. So if you haven't tried this car, I would definitely recommend you give it a go. And that's it for this review, so I'll see you next time, and as always, thanks for watching.